Good evening. Welcome to my channel. My name is David Okon, and we are talking about the cost of living. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone for supporting my channel. Thank you everybody who have been subscribing, people who have been sharing, with family and friends, people who have been viewing the videos and leaving a comment, leaving comments in the commentary box. Everyone who have been doing everything they can to give me good feedback and objective feedback. We're talking about the cost of living. The reason we are talking about the cost of living is that it is a very important topic, and many people around the globe is suffering the cost of living. Like I said previously about the cost of living, is that the cause of the cost of living is actually government policy and practice involving capitalism, which now operates without a properly operating public sector. The public sector is closing down, and this is actually a deliberate policy to destroy the public sector. And as the public sector is being destroyed, so the people who depend on the public sector, people who are actually poor, are being excluded from the economy globally, nationally, regionally, locally, and globally. Capitalism as an economic and political system is actually expanding across the globe. So you have the basics like food, energy, healthcare, transport, public transport, employment, education, you name the rest, and all the other income related factors, including actually benefits or family generated resources across the globe is affected. In terms of governance, policies closing down the public sector is responsible for the cost of living enterprises. I am actually discussing at this stage, the cost of living in terms of the 2007-2008 financial crash which happened in America, which actually spread globally, and there were a lot of problems. People lost their jobs, they lost their homes. The U.S. government failed to provide housing to people who need it, people who are poor, creating a crisis which further impacted on poor people. And I already defined poverty in terms of if you work for a living. And it is really necessary that people understand their environment, what is happening around your home, your family, your community. It is your responsibility. Government have said it over and again that it is no longer interested in helping people. Whatever help is now existing is symbolic. It is actually a residue of what remains of the wreckage of public sector and public service. And I have argued, in my view, effectively in this process, that the public sector is the only way to provide public service. When the government of America, the United States of America, tried to provide public housing by implementing, by engaging the private sector in America, it created a problem. It tried to provide public service by, through a private sector, through the markets, through the financial system. And the other thing I said yesterday, and been saying it again and again, that the chronic cancer infecting the global economy, and people who need help and people who don't need help, because we are all in this together. If you think you're a multimillionaire, and you're not infected or impacted, when poor people, who are actually the majority, 90% or even more percent of the global population, they are suffering poverty because they work for a living. If you think they are the only ones in trouble, then you're mistaken, because we are a human community, we're a human family. If offenses such as occur within the economic infrastructure, such offenses affect one section of society, rest assured, it is only a matter of time that you, even it doesn't matter how rich you are, you're going to be in trouble, because one section of society, which incidentally is the majority, are actually impacted. You are going to suffer. In this respect, we need to take stock and understand. Doesn't matter how poor you are, how rich you are. It is not a type of credibility that you remain ignorant. Learn, and learn. Learn development, learn culture. I've said it again and again, and I promise I will be saying this until I feel we are comfortable understanding the state of affairs. It's our life, this is our freedom. We speak, so the world moves at the sound of our voices. So there is no apology for being disadvantaged, for being paid low by employers. It's not your fault. It's the fault of the government, which is supposed to set a properly functioning minimum wage policy and practice. It has failed. It has preferred a very violent, a very extreme aspect of capitalism, concentrating wealth in the hands of the few, to the disadvantage of the many. As I speak now, nobody in the world should be poor. Everyone in the world should be rich. I'm not talking about rich. Talk about getting out of poverty. More people than now existing within wealth should actually be in wealth. More people who have wealth, who may not be necessarily poor, because they are actually earning good money, maybe 40,000, 50,000 pounds in the UK, in Europe, because euro and pound and now the dollar are actually valued similarly. So around 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100,000, you are slightly okay. You earn more than that, maybe 500,000, you are much better. But when we look at the people who are actually at the lowest scale, this is actually the beginning of a crisis to draw attention of every responsible citizen of the world. Responsibility is extremely important if you are a human being. Negligence is the source of all sort of wickedness. Do not be negligent. It is not an excuse, even if you are on the street, homeless. It's your life. You are given a voice. Use it, directly or indirectly. Let us learn and know and listen and learn more, and begin to design our plans, and begin to implement our plans, and begin to evaluate our projects. Doesn't matter if it means balancing your book, designing a budget. When you're going to shop, you only get maybe £100 per week after rent, after taxes. That is what the money you get per week. Plan it. That is money. That is pound. You are poor, but it's not a ticket to being negligent. This is a cultural education. Everybody in the world must, because you see, if the situation is a matter of life and death, children are being murdered on the street right now. They're killing. Some children are killing each other with knives, guns, or some other form. Children are dying of of drugs. Some people are being abducted. Around the globe, it's not just in one country. This is evidence of violence. It is our responsibilities to make sure we speak out, to change. We cannot sit and take responsibility for doing nothing. That cannot happen. It has to change. Because I believe in hope. I believe in change. I believe that if we do something, it doesn't matter how seemingly insignificant it is actually the best thing to do. Let us do something. Let us work together. It's an opportunity. The cost of living as a crisis is an opportunity to reach deep, to reach deep into your resources and draw out what you have and apply it to bring change. And this is our destiny, and we make it our mission to participate, to function. I've been looking about the financial crisis of 2007 to 2008 because it created the cost of living crisis. It created all sorts of problems, and it is just the beginning. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. That means we have to prepare now to go through all these challenges. And challenges is an understatement. It's going to be a horror story. The future is uncertain. And we are in the melting pot. In a society of inequalities, of violence, economic violence, technological violence, cultural violence, social violence. If you have money, you are somebody. If you don't have money, you are nothing. You are not nothing. That is not true. Even if you sleep rough on the street, you are a human being. Anybody who does not prioritize, who doesn't set as priority the value of humanity, is wrong. And they should not be allowed to even to speak. We don't do democracy in a funny way. In funny ways, anybody not valuing humanity is not a democrat. It doesn't matter what they think, how educated they are, how rich they are. You are not a democrat. You have to value humanity. That is the principle. The principle proposition, the state of affairs, the status. What we need to understand. And I see this, seeing and also knowing that right now we think money, some people think even trees and animals are more important than humans. That is not right. Human beings are important. We call each other strangers. We are not strangers. That is not going to happen. It will not happen because you see, we are not strangers. We are friends. We are families. We are a human family. And if we are strangers, then something is wrong. It means we are culturally bankrupt. We have to go back to school. In our families, our schools are our family, on our streets, in our communities. We should begin to learn respect for self and respect for others. And that's how we begin to show that we value one another. You cannot call somebody you value a stranger. And right now, this terminology, this calling people strangers, is justified. Because you see, if you don't treat other people as strangers, you may not survive for a month. These people are dangerous. They're on the streets. They break into houses. They commit crimes. Almost everybody is a criminal in their own skin, in their own rights. You watch television, even movie actors are criminals because they teach violence. If you watch a story or a movie for so long, if you read a book, painted red with violence, with blood, with doing what is wrong, we begin to be wrong. And that is actually a cultural deficit. And cultural deficit is an understatement because, I speak because I believe in hope. We can change and we will change because it's our life, it's our destiny. We do not know what the future holds. We may see now that things are desperate, things are out of control. Young people are committing suicide. single mothers are suffering. Domestic violence, domestic abuse, mostly by men. Men are supposed to protect women. Now, women are women now think they should protect themselves. Rightly so. They're going to the gym, they're going to places to learn how self-defense, because men are not really, even as I speak now, I risk offending some women and even some men, because culturally we have gone so astray that we, even as member of this, member of the sexes, men are supposed to look after women. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. If you think men should look after men and women should look after women, or women should look after men. At some level, we all look after one another, but we look after one another differently, because men are different from women. So they look after women in different ways. Women look after men in different ways. I'm not even talking about cooking in the kitchen. Some women still enjoy cooking in the kitchen. Some men enjoy cooking in the kitchen. Washing, cleaning, society, because we don't do this thing any longer. Technology is expanding, so in defining, roles in terms of housework or even office work is becoming irrelevant, because technology is running society. We now have to focus on the doctrine, the idea of self-respect, respecting others, respecting our property, other people's property, male or female. Let us be respectful. And I've been saying this over and over, and I'm happy every time I finish recording a video. I feel good, because I know what I'm saying is valuable, and I believe that in time some people will join me in the conversation, and we are here to stay, and we are going to go on and on and on, and at some point in terms of enduring this process, we will all be enjoying this process. So part of the problem to do with what happened in America involving the financial crash of 2008 and 2009 involved indebtedness. You see, there is something called leveraging. Leveraging, if you know what leveraging is, I know there are so many clever people in the world. If you are watching this video, if you know what leveraging is, leave a comment below and let me know what leveraging is. It has to do with credit, no doubt. You see, it has to do with lending and borrowing. You see, it involves credit relationship. You give something to gain something. If you sell debt and you make money from it, then you're doing well. So these actually went up. The incident of the credit relationship went up. It went on the increase. Okay, and when you compare at that time, you compare leveraging investment banks. So leverage ratios of investment banks increased significantly between 2003 and 2007. So when they talk of leverage ratio, which is actually, leveraging is compared with something else. You see, I can't see all the information perfectly. Because you see, the thing with the debt is that it's shadow. It's not real. Probably the proportion of credit relationship was more than the normal functioning of financial infrastructures. So, and this affected big corporations, small and medium businesses, and also households. And it also affected things like income, disposable income. It impacted GDP. And prior to the crisis, financial institutions became highly leveraged, increasing their appetite for risky investments and reducing their resilience in case of losses. So, see, prior to the crisis, financial institutions became highly leveraged. So, the catalyst for the crisis was actually high level of leveraging, which is actually, the financial relationship based on credit system. It went up compared to other forms of relationship. So when you talk so the financial institutions became highly leveraged. They also increased their appetite for risky investment. So when you deal with credit, you take a lot of risk. And when you talk of appetite, it means you're addicted to borrowing and lending. And you take risks like there is no tomorrow. And so when you talk of resilience, reducing their resilience in case of losses. So resilience actually the capacity to endure suffering. What do you say? So the financial system was actually suffering. It was like being in prison. It was actually arrested, imprisoned by the credit system. So its resilience, integrity, and its capacity, to weather the storm actually fell apart. So much of this leverage was achieved using complex financial instruments, such as off-balance sheet securitization of derivatives, which made it difficult for creditors and regulators to monitor and try to reduce financial institution risk level. So, in other words, the system is very complex. The financial system is very complex. That is how the credit relationship, as I said, how it was achieved. It was actually conducted using a very complex financial instrumentations, such as off-balance sheet securitization and derivatives. Now, if you have off-balance sheet, I don't know what it means, but I have to derive that from what the balance sheet is. And if you want to balance something, it means it's running effectively. If something is in balance, it means it's normal. So, if the balance sheet is not really operating within compliance, and there is a problem with securitization. Securitization is actually defending the system of credit against risk, because you give something to fall back on. You actually put a guarantee down. That is securitization. Security, provide security, protecting the status, the state of affairs involving the credit system. You protect it by giving a surety. So the balance sheet of balance sheet securitization and derivative. Derivative is something deriving its value from some other value. So if you are giving security through derivatives, then you are saying this is nothing but it's based on something. So derivative is actually a form of securitization which actually derives its value from, it has no value because it's credit, it's zero, it's nothing, but it is something else like a guarantee, like a security which actually support the credit system, the credit product. And this made it difficult for creditors and regulators to monitor and try to reduce financial institution risk level. So there was lack of transparency. There was lack of transparency because if something is actually done off the scuff, you do something off the record, more or less, and it produces a level of risk. And this actually made it difficult for creditors. Creditors are people who give credit, people who have maybe money. They're going to give loan or something that's called credit. They're called creditors. Regulators are people like government, authorities with laws and policies to supervise the financial and economic environment to make sure it's functioning legally and also sensibly. So in so acting, this produced an environment where creditors were blind and regulators became toothless. The imbalance or lack of relationship between the two, they could not monitor, they could not attempt to reduce the financial institution risk level. So risk is the name of the game. If you're a lender, if you're a creditor, you should be an expert on risk assessment and on risk management. This failed because of the attitude of the government, which actually allowed the market to operate like a mini or even a super jungle. Because these are big businesses, multi-billion, multi-trillion dollars worth. They are extremely powerful, and this is also a sign of the time that we are entering an age of a powerful system, a powerful environment involving the market economic system, involving big corporations, corporate empires and corporate emperors. And seeing this incident in America should help to teach us to understand what is actually going on with the cost of living crisis. The elephant in the room is actually organization, corporate organizations, which are necessarily too big to fail. And we saw this because they could not fail. If they fail, we were going to die. It's like cancer. If you have cancer, if you try to kill the cancer, if you allow the cancer to die just like that, it's going to take you with it. So that is how the market economic system left unchecked the way it is now. Because you see, you give power to a child. People who are culturally educated, that is my definition of being a child, an infant. Somebody who do not understand value system very well. And their sense of valuing has to do with money and wealth. I have nothing against money and wealth. I'm looking forward to money and wealth anytime. But if all my understanding, all my life, all my premising is based on money and wealth, without knowing what the money is for. The money is for people. people is not for money. And this is a piece of information which is seemingly simple but extremely difficult to grasp and also to transmit, to actually transfer from one source to another, to teach multimillionaires, to teach multi-trillionaires the cultural requirements of being an owner of an estate the size of the modern economic and market system. This is a lot of power, and this is on the increase. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, the few are getting richer, the many are getting poorer. This is language. This is why we are suffering because of it. This is related to the 2007 and 2009 incident. It is actually a crisis, an event involving the economy, involving power, involving wealth, involving inequalities, involving money being siphoned from public to private. And as if it is being done willfully to transfer money, it's like the crisis and harvest period for the super rich. And that was what happened in 2007 and 2008. And the households and financial institutions became increasingly indebted and over-leveraged during the years preceding the crisis. So there was a melting pot, there was a bubble waiting to burst. Everything was there for all to see. It should have been stopped by a responsible government, but the government in America was irresponsible. And because of ideological mentality, this irresponsibility is on the increase now. And this increased their vulnerability to the collapse of the housing bubble and worsened the ensuing economic downturn. So the poor are vulnerable in the first place, but the main customers of the government policy, which involved actually the credit system which created the financial crash. This very policy was actually initiated to help the financial system, which is extremely complex, which actually is so opaque. No transparency. People who are given so much power have zero or next to zero integrity. They were culturally children, infants. They were dangerous. Like giving a tornado or atomic bomb to a 10-year-old to operate it. That is, see, the behavior of the marketeers is infantile. They are culturally uneducated. Their value system is distorted and twisted, and they become like a ticking time bomb on society. And this is no joking matter. The government is also part of them. There are people ruling over us in the state, in government, which should not have power at all, because political power is a very dangerous weapon of mass destruction. And the cocktail of executive at government level, at state level, and also the emperors, the fat cats, the top dogs within the private sector, within the corporate economy, if they come together with trails and traces of irresponsible conduct, like we saw in America, like now we see with the Conservative Party. We see right-wing extremism, people who behave like 8-year-olds in terms of their assessments, in terms of their sense of understanding the way life should be, or the way life is. They don't even. We elect MPs in the UK, for example, and instead of coming to us, we have a local system with local leadership. Instead of coming to us and asking our opinion, how much we want to get paid when we go to work, how we want to work when we are in work, because in democracy we are actually the bosses, not even our employers. Our employers are actually privileged to serve this country, and within the public and the private sector. These are actually privileged people. They are not behaving like they are our masters. And yet the citizens of this country, the people of this country, the people of the world, the many of the world are actually the bosses. That is the idea of democracy, government of the people, by the people, for the people. And this proposition is not new. It is actually well established. It is the premise for which the government exists. Why we go on to elect them year on year, and they should listen to us when we say we are being paid low, the minimum wage is too low, condition of work is so fragile, is so unstable, is so dangerous and necessary. They should give us clear reasoning why we are paid very low in these countries, not just one country, everywhere you go, and the money is being concentrated in the level, in the hands of few, in many. And there is no reason except that there is a lot of bad people actually being in power. There are good people in power. I am actually challenging every good person in power, in politicians, in politics, in media, in business. Keep those people away, because you are power as well. Do not allow evil to triumph over good. And if your poor person is not a passport being culturally uneducated, because I've been talking about culture as being the causes of misconduct, which is what we saw in America in 2007, in 2008, misbehaving to produce a global economic catastrophe as we saw, and that then and now is affecting us. We name crises following such events. We give different names. We create confusions, and always the buck fall with the economists and with also the economic environment to pick up the pieces. And that's why I'm trying to draw our attention. It doesn't matter who you think you are. You may think you are actually somebody who should not be involved in handling issues such as the cost of living. But see, you can be a victim or a victim. Even if you have only £5 in your life, between you and poverty, you have only £5, you can choose to be a victim or a victim. You don't need to have money to have knowledge, to have understanding. What I'm saying is quite clear. If something is wrong, it is wrong. What happened in America in 2007 and 2008 was wrong. The government was wrong. The people who laid in the market economic system were wrong. They created a lot of problems, and we still suffer the cost of living crisis today, primarily because of what happened there. Primarily because of government attitude, neglecting the public sector, and also neglecting regulating the private sector. This is a two-pronged era which need to really change, and it must change. It will change. If we speak out, if we keep quiet, then we will suffer in silence, and we suffer the cost of living in silence. We will be the ones to pick up the scrap. We are looking at certain statistics, whether it is important or not, because we are students. We are gathered here as students. We have to learn. We are independent learners. Because statistics, free cash used by consumers from home equity extraction doubled from 627 billion in 2001 to 1,428 billion in 2005, as the housing bubble built a total of nearly $5 trillion over the period, contributing to economic growth worldwide. So such are actually the situation. Free cash. Where have you heard of something known as free cash. Free cash. Consumers means people like you and I. People who we don't get free cash. There's no such thing as free cash. If you borrow money from somebody, you pay for it. Buy now, pay later. No, there's no such thing as free lunch. It doesn't exist. So when we say free cash used by consumers from home equity extraction, home equity means the value on your property. So you take credit, you borrow money, you buy a property. The property is subjected to the market forces. It grows in value. And then you produce equity, which is actually value on it. And then you take it out. That is what extraction means. Extraction means you take value from your property. Maybe you remortgage it and get money. That money is free. It is not. Because you pay, you behave like a thief. Thieves who steal money, if they grab your money and run away with it, you try to chase them, they're going to kill you because they think it's their money. That is a corrupted mindset. It's a mindset of a thief, which is actually corruption is the product of poor cultural education because they have no respect for themselves. That's why they think the money is free. You don't get free things. There's nothing free in the world. You think you're smart, but it comes back to roots. This amounted to, it actually doubled this kind of behavior with money being extracted from home equity, with borrowed, playing games with credit system, borrowing money, and we think, oh, we are alive, we're going to really do very well. It doubled from 627 billion in 2001 to 1,428 billion in 2005, as the housing bubble built a total of nearly 55 trillion over the period, contributed to economic growth worldwide. The economy grew, and the extractors continued to extract from the growth. But the question is, who did the extracting? That is the question. Because in a capitalistic system, the bigger you are, the more you harvest. If you plant 1,000, a million acres of money during the period of harvest, you harvest the most. And that is actually the relationship. The bigger you are, the harder you fall, or the stronger you rise. So which one is which? U.S. home mortgage debt relief to GDP. U.S. home mortgage debt relief relative to GDP increased from an average of 46% during the 1990s to 73% during 2008, reaching 10.5 trillion. So when you talk of debt relative to GDP is gross domestic product, the measure of an economic growth. So mortgage debt, like I said previously, is not really real value. Debt is not the real value, because mortgage is like you're selling your life. You mortgage your life, you mortgage your home. So home mortgage, you're mortgaging your life, which means you're actually throwing your life away. Your home, you're throwing your home away. Mortgaging means throwing something away. That's what credit does. If you want to live in a home, do two things. Buy your home outright. That is the first thing to do. The second thing to do is for the government to buy a house and give for those who cannot buy a house. Now, people who are watching this video will actually describe me as I am Alice in Wonderland, like I'm living in a fantasy world. And I am. Yes, I am living in a fantasy world because no government is going to buy a house for anyone. They should. That's what I'm trying to say. They should. Because there is a lot of wealth. There's so many rich people. These rich people should give their money freely to the government to buy free housing to people who cannot afford. Simple as that. There is no credit. There is no renting. There is no mortgaging. Mortgage means you are actually throwing your life. If you mortgage your life, the meaning of mortgaging, it's like you don't value your life at all. You're selling yourself to the highest bidder. You're saying my life is worthless. We get involved in a mortgage situation, in a credit situation. That's why probably some young people these days, they don't want to buy, because it is not really buying a house. It is putting your neck into a noose. When you put your neck into a noose, it means somebody's going to strangle you. If you are strangled, you're going to die. So mortgaging is kind of like, it's a form of execution. Somebody is trying to kill you. They're trying to mortgage your home, your house. In England, where I live, an Englishman's life is home, and an Englishman's home is his castle. A castle is a place of protection. If you live in a home, you are protected from thieves, from rain, from the elements, weather, winter. I mean, if there is a heat storm, heat wave, there's a heat storm, heat wave, we are asked to close our windows. If there's a crisis, you run inside for protection. The stronger your house, the more likely you are going to survive. And you mortgage your home. What kind of business is that? And the government should stop the system. They should change the system. They should tell every rich person, put money into the bank, into the central banks of the world. If you are a multi-billionaire, freely, you shouldn't even pay taxes. We should not pay taxes at all. We should give our money freely to the government to use it for social welfare. But we spend money, more money, actually 99.9% of our resources go into fighting, military fighting, economic warfares, political infightings, cross fightings, social fighting. We call each other strangers. See, environmental fighting. Our children are dying on the street. There are protesters on the street trying to kill themselves to protect trees and animals. You see, we fight and fight and fight from childhood. I think children start fighting from the home. If that is true, I know there are psychologists for children. There are actually experts who study children's behavior. If children start fighting from the home, then we start to teach them culture from the home. By what we say. If a mother is pregnant, what she does, what she says, will teach the baby in our home how to behave culturally, astutely. If we don't do that, we're failing to do that, we are going to go extinct. And this is not just for the rich, for the poor, this is culture. It's something I'm just trying to make sure I understand what I'm talking about. You guys listening to me also understand what you're listening to. Culture must really revive, because you see, we should stop fighting. The war in Ukraine should stop. Putin is not an adult. Zelensky, these people glorify war. American presidents are glorifying war. Why do you give weapons to Ukraine? I mean, if global power is anything to go by, why don't you stop Putin from fighting? I mean, you're talking about Russia, just one country. You talk about America, Europe. Africa, Asia. All you have to do is persuade China and North Korea to join the rest of the world. Stop Putin. Putin should listen to you. Zelensky should listen to you. Stop fighting. Before we begin to talk, stop fighting. Then we don't even have to really negotiate in a complicated way. All we have to tell these two great men of war, stop fighting. And that's the end of the story. If there is a problem, solve it without fighting. You are adults. And if your children get out of power, the same with Britain. Rishi Sunak. Oh, Russia this, Russia that. Oh, Zelensky this, Zelensky that. Come on, stop supporting the war in Ukraine. Ask the two to stop before you begin to do anything. Russia, which is actually a bigger boy than Zelensky, Russia should stop fighting Ukraine first, because it is stupid, it is childish. It is a cultural delinquency. You know, cultural delinquency, and like what you call your financial delinquency, you know, credit delinquency. People are behaving badly, like wild animals. Wild animals are even cleverer. If they're going to earn, they stop fighting, you know, so that they get some food. What has happened to us? Because we lost direction, we fail to understand the meaning of culture, the meaning of human value. We kill people. Why in the world should somebody kill somebody else and say that is all we did really, really well? We won. What have you won? What war have you won? Seriously? People, this is the time, this is an opportunity for us to start all over again. We have to change. We cannot carry on fighting. If you are campaigning for the environment, carry on. Campaign for the environment. But you all need to know that as an environmental campaigner, if it comes to it, if you are given the choice between a human being and a tree, please choose a human being. If you decide to choose trees and neglect people, then you are a tree. We don't like trees living with human beings, looking like human beings. We don't like animals living with human species, looking like human species. Having children with humans, they are trees looking like people. That's why they choose trees. That's why they choose animals, because they are not humans. If they are humans, your instinct is to protect your kind. No question. We shouldn't have this conversation in the first place. We are having this conversation because our life is in danger. We ourselves are endangering our lives. We need to be security conscious. Cultural security is number one. Cultural security means we must have to make sure a human being is sitting next to you, not an animal looking like a human being. It lives exactly, except there are trees inside. There are antelopes, there are buffaloes, there are baboons. It is our duty, our cultural security, to maintain the species known as humanity. And if you kill another human without even thinking about it, seriously, you are no longer human. Humans don't behave like that. Let us take stock and see who is human and who is not human. If you are not human, please get out of power before we catch you. You behave like a wild animal, but worse than an animal. Right now, people are preferring dogs and cats to form a loving relationship with animals, because humans are behaving worse than animals because of cultural failure. This is what happened in America in 2007, 2009, and it's a carry on with the current cost of living crisis. It's a political problem. It's a cultural problem. It's an industrial problem. It's a technological problem in terms of deficit. Because we need to design and operate a correlation between development and culture. If we have money, if we have technology, if we operate science and scientific methods, we need to really use that as a utility to support humanity. If we don't do this, we are going to fall foul of our own enterprises or lack thereof. To my mind, enterprising should be something positive, not negative. And positivity must mean that we are peaceful in our attitude, in our thinking. We think, so we are. As simple as that. Where is our mind? Let us focus. Let us pay attention. Let us think peace and more of the same. Year on, year out. And peace is a good thing. Because if you change the way you think, you begin to think violent, war, strangers. You know, why don't you think friends? My human friends, other than these human strangers. And this is not just in one country, it is in every country. And for sure, if you are walking down the street right now, you're going to be afraid of a human being, a fellow human being. You're not going to be afraid of a fox or even a tiger, because tigers run away from humans. Unless you go to where they are, to their territory, where they have nowhere to run, then in self-defense they will attack you. We humans travel for miles, hundreds, thousands of miles across the globe to fight. And we consider ourselves adults. This is false cultural economy. It is false cultural economy. We need to reproduce the new cultural economy. We need a new cultural economy where we value human as we think human. And so we are. And so we regroup and re-strategize and we remake society and move forward. This is an opportunity for everyone suffering from the cost of living, who remembers the havoc, recklessness created in America in 2007. State recklessness from the government, recklessness from the people who run our economies, who control our wealth. These are people unfit to govern, in government and also in corporate estates. And so, as we continue to examine, to look at individual stories, individual information in what happened about over 10 years ago, still affecting us today, and in the future, if we don't start changing things one step at a time. Right now, we will continue to get worse and worse as a human species. U.S. household debt is a percentage of annual disposable personal income, 127% at the end of 2007 versus the 77% in 1990. So it went up. U.S. household debt as a percentage of annual disposable personal income was 127% at the end of 2007 as compared to 77% in 1990. So it went up rather than down. So debt of the household in America, the household of people, ordinary people in America, the percentage yearly, annual meaning yearly, disposable income, which means cash at hand, the money you get paid in your hand to pay bills, to buy food, to buy energy, to buy a car, or to service your lifestyle. You want to go to holiday, these are disposable personal income. if you have money in your hand, it's disposable because you're going to spend it. So spendable money ready for spending, money cash at hand, the money in your pocket, the money, your personal income, which is actually as opposed to maybe business income. The percentage there was 127% of the at the end of 2007 versus 77% in it almost doubled in percentage terms. So in 1981, U.S. private debt was 123% of GDP. By the third quarter of 2008, it was 290%. So it went up, what you call also the U.S. private debt. In 1981, U.S. private debt was 123% of GDP. By the third quarter of 2008, it was 290. So do the maths, double or even triple. From 2004 to 2007, the top 5 U.S. investment banks each significantly increased their financial leverage, which increased their vulnerability to a financial shock. So, investment banks leveraging is actually the credit performance. If you want to call it performance, actual relationship. Leveraging, generating income through selling and buying debt, shadow economy, shadow financing, shadow banking. Shadow means something which is not real. It doesn't exist. That's the problem with the credit system in its holistic sense. In its holistic context, it is nothing. Credit is nothing. And if you have credit card, you have 2 or 3 or 4 credit cards, you are going to spend until you drop. You're going to spend your head off until you drop. And dropping is actually going to be literal, because you are not going to get out in debt. For example, people who are not even working today in the UK, you find them in excess of 100,000 in debt. You see, it's like chasing after the shadow. So financial shock is like you are shot with a shotgun. It's like you went through a field of electric currents. So changes in capital requirements intended to keep U.S. banks competitive with their European counterparts allowed lower risk weightings for AAA rated securities. Securities are guarantees for credit facilitation. So changes in capital requirements intended to keep U.S. banks competitive with their European counterparts allowed lower risk weightings for AAA securities. Now, low risk weighting, which means they lower the standard, the kind of like fiddle the book to make it look good, so that artificially the system can operate. It's like gambling with your life, the cutting of your hand to see if it looks good or not, or if your head is going to fall off. It's like behaving like an idiot. And capitalization is like putting money into the economy. That's the capitalization. If you do that, if you fiddle the book, then you're going to get money from the bank. That's all from the government. That's what capitalization requirement. You have to have that arrangement to get money from the government to recapitalize your business, your business, your credit business. The shift from first loss tranches to AA rated tranches was seen by regulators as a risk reduction that compensated the higher leverage. A shift from first loss tranches to AA rated tranches. So when you talk about first loss tranches, and a shift, which means something is changing from one form to another. So we have a form known as the first loss tranches, shifting from first loss tranches to AAA rated tranches. AAA rated is mean your credit rating is good, it's better than, in this case it is artificially made better than what it should have been. It should have been what they call first loss tranches. if you are losing money, should you be given more money to lose? Because your credit rating should have been low. AAA rating in whatever they call tranches or whatever was seen by regulators as a risk reduction that compensated the higher leverage. So high leveraging, which means the higher level of credit functioning, if you like. So the regulators were playing games with their minds. See, if you begin to behave like a thief or like a rogue, and you think you can play a game behind the scene with power, with money, with wealth, this is what happened. And you fiddle the book here, you fiddle the book there. These 5 institutions reported over 4.1 trillion in debt for fiscal year 2007, about 30% of US nominal GDP for 2007. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt and was liquidated. Bear Stearns and Merrill Lynch were sold at fire sale prices, and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley became commercial banks subjecting themselves to more stringent regulation. So they reduced their statuses so that I don't know, they wanted money from the government, because it was a give and take situation. If you change form from a powerful position to a weaker position, then you attract sympathy from your dad, the government. You get money. So they pretended to be smaller than they are. When you change from one form to another, like changing from commercial banks, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley became commercial banks. You run away from yourself so that you get sympathy from your sweet loving daddy, the government of America, or the government of whichever world. These people are treated like spoiled children. The great problem, and the government being come and encourage them. Oh, please don't cry. Please don't cry. You lost as the country billion and trillion of money, but don't worry, don't cry. You're my baby. So subjecting themselves to more stringent regulation, these are actually cover up. Because these people cannot be regulated. As soon as you give them money, they go back to their old shells. With the exception of Lehman, these companies require or receive government support. So that's why Lehman Brothers collapsed, because Lehman Brothers refused to reduce its identity, to diminish itself. It just, either give me liberty or death. So he died. Lehman Brothers, it was too big to fail. So it wasn't actually. That is probably the reason why Lehman Brothers was not bailed out. Because we're talking about government bailing out big corporations. That's all we're talking about. It's like you're speaking French in English. So Lehman did not get government support. So this is what became smaller without being. Like you're an elephant and suddenly you want to be a mosquito so that you get paid by the government. And so they did. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, 2 US government-sponsored enterprises, owned or granted nearly 5 trillion in mortgage obligations. At the time, they were placed into conservatorship by the U.S. government in September 2008. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are two U.S. government-sponsored enterprises. So if you are government-sponsored, you are government-sponsored. I mean, the government pays Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the government. These two corporations, these two corporate empires, were private companies. They were vehicles for siphoning public money into the pockets and the bank accounts of multimillionaires and multimillionaires. These are actually like a tube outlet, like a train, like a big trailer full of public money, carrying this public money into the pockets and the bank account of multi-billionaires and multi-trillionaires in terms of business interest and business ownership. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, two U.S. government-sponsored enterprises, own or guaranteed nearly 5 trillion in mortgage obligations. At the time, obligation actually means your responsibility. You own that, you are responsible for it. And at the time, they were placed into conservatorship. So when you have a conservatory in your home, it's like, I don't know, maybe storage of some sort. Conservatorship by the U.S. government in September 2000. I think they were taken back. The government took it. They took it to. The government actually took it away into government ownership. These people cannot talk straight language. Conservatorship by U.S. government in September 2008. I think the government took it over. The ownership, people took over ownership so that it can pump government money into it and then release it back into the hand of the super rich to enjoy life using public money. That's how they conduct harvest during crisis. Or the economy is collapsing. Oh, the government take it over and rebuild it and then give it back to the private company. They destroy it again. Destruction means they take money. During the crisis, they take money in a way which is not seen by us. They take money, they pay themselves billions and trillions. Selling and buying. They pay themselves billions. And such that the actual business becomes a skeleton, is bankrupted. And then they trigger a crisis. And then the government take it back and restock it with public money and give it back, and they take the money away. And it's like bringing an empty vessel, give the empty vessel to the government stock it with money and give it back to private companies, and private companies take the money and disappear with it and take an empty vessel again. So the cycle carries on. The cycle keeps going on. These businesses are actually vehicle for extracting public money and transferring this public money into the hands of private millionaires and trillionaires in really an opaque, extremely inaccessible system which defies human intelligence. These people must have the brain of alien to operate financial institutions. I have seen complications in terms of system, in terms of infrastructure. Nothing is more complicated than the financial system of the market of capitalism. It's complex and complex and complex. deliberately, and the people must speak. Sometimes speaking is actually keeping quiet, being silent, shutting up, which is what I propose to do in a minute. I've been talking a lot this evening, but I think if you're watching up to now, subscribe to my channel, help my channel to grow, and share with family and friends. Click the notification bell. We are here to stay, and we are trying to look at what goes on in the world, because we are members of the global community. It's our life. We take responsibility for it. We work for peace. We object to war. We fight against violence. We want peace, and we can achieve it. We will achieve it by speaking peacefully, by thinking peace, by speaking peace, by telling the truth in the process. And we pay the price for telling the truth always in a world which is corrupt, like what we see in what took place in America in 2007 and 2008. These 7 entities were highly leveraged and had 9 trillion in debt or guarantee obligation, yet they were not subject to the same regulation as the depository bank, because the depository banks are small. In the jungle, if you are an elephant, you take the lion's share, because you do as you please. If you're a lion, the lion is the king of the jungle. You do as you like. If you're big, if you're in a jungle, the fittest actually survive. You operate a policy of survival of the fittest. In the market environment, the bigger you are, the more respected even by the government. The government let you get away with murder, financial murder. That's exactly, the 7 entities were highly leveraged and had 9 trillion in debt or guarantee obligations. If you sit on an empty shell and you tell the world that empty shell is full of money, if the world says we don't see the money, the vessel is empty. That is what leveraging means. The leveraged obligations, guarantees, debt, whatever they call it. These are actually entities which are empty shells. They are empty shell, and somebody comes and tell you, look at this house. It's full of money. It's full of trillions, billions, and trillions of US dollars. Then an ordinary citizen will say, where is the money? Say, well, you need glasses or what? This house is full of money. That is what leveraged entity look like, because you see, it sits on the house of nothing. That is what the credit economy means. It's shadow. Shadow means actually shadow. It looks like something, but it is nothing. Where is the money? The money is, we don't see money coming in. We don't see money going out, because we in the market economic jungle, we the citizens are not allowed to see evil. We are not allowed to speak evil. We are not supposed to hear evil or else. So they were not regulated. They are so too big to fail. They are too big to be touched. They were untouchable, and they are getting bigger and bigger. It's something called corporatization in the global economic context. Big corporations are swallowing up. They are like loan sharks. They are like sharks in the sea, in the ocean, swallowing small fishes, emptying the sea of all the other species, and they dominate. And this is the behavior, the characteristic of power relation within them. Credit, financial, global credit financial institution. And this credit the catastrophe in America, finally creating a lot of problems globally, economically, financially, but the poor, the majority of the world, these little people who are actually many in size, in number, suffered wrath from the government. When the government introduced something called austerity measure, which means we are not going to help because our big boys in the cities are in need of more money. Okay, where did they take their trillions and billions? They hid it. We can only assume because we don't see. These people operate under rocks and steel and concrete and tight security. They live like demigods. They are the elephants of the market jungle. The modern corporate empires with emperors full of power, full of strong teeth. You don't dare question them. You don't dare go anywhere near them. They will crush you. And that is what took place in 2007. That is what took place in 2008 with the global financial crash. One law for one, for some, and another law for another. That is a disparity. If you're big, you're better and beautiful. You commit crime, economic or even credit crime, which is not crime because the law says it's not crime. You do something terrible and you get away with it. So behavior that may be optimal for an individual, such as saving more during adverse economic conditions, can be detrimental if too many individuals pursue the same behavior, as ultimately one person's consumption is another person's income. So behavior that may be optimal for an individual, such as saving more during adverse economic. People, when there is crisis, people are cautious. People are cautious. The ones they call behavior, the ones they call consumers behaving in a certain way. Optimal means like something acceptable, something normal, become abnormal. So become detrimental means it hurts. It hurts because they see these people are actually predators. They eat our money. They eat our food. They actually swallow our energy. So we get the cost of living crisis, such as we now have globally. They are greedy and they are always feeding on us, sucking our blood, financial blood, dry. This behavior, this is the commentary, pointing to how we were behaving as people of the world, citizens, because we see storms, we see problems. So we resort to thrift. We resort to thrift. We spend less. We try to manage our finances, to manage our resources, to be economical, which is what we should be, which is what the big guys should teach us. Now we become economic managers of our personal finances, because we see economic storm, financial chaos coming. The government has cut our money. They don't pay our wages. They froze our money, refusing to pay our money, giving money to the super rich instead, and creating a detrimental state of affairs which now still lingers. What we suffer today as its genesis in the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008 in America going global. We suffer the cost of living primarily because of what happened in America. And it's not going to go on and on and on. Crisis attract crisis. And we begin to be consumers of crisis other than of credit. And so we behave so as to try and cut costs. We are wise and we are accused by the market. Why are you not spending your money? We need your money. You are consumers. No, we are not consumers. We are humans. We are people. You don't see us in terms of money. That is weird. That is cultural failure. We are not consumers. We are human beings. We are people. What do we look like? Money? Do we look like wealth? Do we look like rats or mouse? Even wild animals are not consumers. Suddenly, human beings are described in the marketplace as consumers. How strange is that? And then we don't want to spend our little money because we are many. We are billions of us. If one spend £1, to one multi-billionaire, he gets billions or trillions from poor people. So poor people are actually being monetized. We look like money in the eye. I mean, we walk innocently. We're walking into the park. These people they don't see people, they see money. These people are money. They're consumers. And so we consume. We spend. And if we try to be prudent with our money, we try to be wise, we are accused. Why are you not spending your money? You're going to destroy our economy. So behavior that may be optimal for an individual such as saving more during advanced economic conditions can be detrimental if too many individuals pursue the same behavior. And ultimately, one person's consumption is another person's income. As we consume, the people who we sell and buy get our money. It's their income. Our loss is their gain. Our loss, when the government transfers our money to them, is their gain. And it is our loss also when we go buy food and energy. That's why they put up the price of food. They put up the price of energy. They put up the price of housing. They put up the price of healthcare. They put up the price of public transport. They put up the price of school because these are staples. These are staple products for us. If we don't eat our home, if we don't eat food, we don't eat our home. If we don't if we can't access medicine in the hospital, if we don't take our children to school, we are going to be extinct. We die within 3 days, or even 4 or 5 days if we don't drink water. Sooner or later, there will be no drinking water because the water in taps coming into homes are toxic. They're very dangerous. Not to speak of dangerous waters increasingly. We drink what we don't know. We drink what we don't see. Because these people are so corrupt. They can sell us anything. We can go to the supermarket and drink water. It's killing us. But we die another day. Right now we are still alive. We don't die before our time. We are still alive. Die another day. So we are not going to die just like it doesn't matter how much we drink. Even if we drink poison, we are going to survive because we have to teach ourselves resilience. You only live once, and we are the factors for the future. What we invest today determines our future, whether we live or whether we die. And so, too many consumers attempting to save or pay down debt simultaneously is called the paradox of thrift and can cause or deepen a recession. Paradox is something paradoxical, is strange, it's mysterious, it's a mystery. Thrift means you look after your money, you look after your health, you look after your wealth. And so it's like paradoxical is really strange behavior. People behaving very strangely. We are being accused of being clever by people who are actually super rich, who are supposed to be clever and that they went to the best schools. Too many consumers attempting to save or pay down debts simultaneously is called the paradox of thrift, and can cause or deepen a recession. A recession, people are not spending money, they are paying debt. They are not spending money, they are paying debt. I mean, if you're in debt, you cut. The logical thing to do, you cut down on your debt. You know, you cut spending, but that's how you pay debt. Because if you don't pay debt, you're a prisoner. Somebody who borrows from a creditor is a prisoner. It's a slave. Borrowers are actually slaves to lenders. And these people want us to be slaves. They want to be our masters over and over and over. We reject that. We want our freedom, and we will get it if we come together, if we learn our culture, if we learn the value of humanity and speak the truth. Speak truth to power. Speaking truth to power. That's what we are going to do, and we will succeed. We will win. Because good should triumph over evil. And those in power who are actually good people, you need to lead us because you have power. Use your power to lead humanity. Let us actually shame wrong factors. If you are a human being and you behave like a wild animal, let us shame people who are actually bad, who are in power. Let us shame them and deprive them of their power, so that we take over the good people of the world. I'm not saying poor people do not need educating. We need educating more. When you are not a multimillionaire or a multi-billionaire, and multi-billionaires who are actually good people, who are culturally educated, take over the power and work with us, and let us actually put good before evil. So, we're saying too many consumers attempting to save or pay down debt simultaneously. At the same time as you save money and pay debt, which is the right thing to do, the natural thing to do, is called the paradox of thrift, and can cause or deepen recession. We did not cause recession. They caused recession. We, the consumers, did not cause recession. Economist Hermann Minsky also described a paradox of deleveraging as financial institutions that are too much leverage debt relative to equity cannot all deleverage simultaneously without significant decline in the value of their assets. You created a problem, solve it. In April 2009, Federal Reserve Vice Chair Janet Yellen discussed these paradoxes. Once this massive credit crunch hit, it didn't take long before we were in a recession. The recession in turn deepened the credit crunch as demand and employment fell and credit losses of financial institutions surged. Indeed, we have been in the grips of precisely this adverse feedback loop for more than a year. A process of balance sheet deleveraging has spread to nearly every corner of the economy. Consumers are pulling back on purchases, especially on durable goods, to build their savings. Businesses are cancelling planned investment and laying off workers to preserve cash. And financial institutions are shrinking assets to bolster capital and improve their chances of weathering the current storm. Once again, Minsky understood this dynamic. He spoke of the paradox of deleveraging, in which precautions that may be smart for individuals and firms, and indeed essential to return the economy to the normal state, nevertheless magnify the threats of the economy as a whole. We talk of the paradox within the credit economic system, which is actually a product of wrong, which operates wrong which from the beginning, the middle to the end. So when we talk in the way you listen to experts trying to provide analysis, we talk hot airs. The substance of the matter is that let us shut down the credit system and start running the economy conventionally in a more honest way. We cannot do that unless we revisit our lives and begin to learn the purposes and the meaning of cultural economy. We renew our beliefs, our thoughts, and our results and our actions in our assessments, and look forward and don't look back. Go straight and become a cultural champion. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed.